All right, everyone, welcome back to The Rational Independent. This is Nathan Lindorf. Today I join you from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. I've taken a bit of a gap in video production because I started a new job. With that job, we're going to have some changes and interruptions to a publishing schedule and airplanes, apparently. Sorry about that. But the long and short of it is I'm still going to try and publish on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. But getting them pushed out in the mornings is a challenge, especially with putting in the editing. So we're going to move to a weekdays, 2 p.m. publishing schedule. That should give me time to film, get it edited, get it uploaded, and push that out on the daily. The other thing is you may see a change in environments. Rental cars, hotel rooms, maybe even a little bit from my home office. We'll see how that goes, because when I'm not traveling, I'm working from home now. So we'll mix it up a little bit. Either way, the emphasis for this channel is on the ideas and the thinking and the desire to engage with current events from a politically independent perspective and try and drill past the noise of the day and look at just one layer deeper of what's going on in our culture and what we can do about it. So the news of the day that's all over the media talks about how Trump's going to be arrested. Apparently there's some kind of thing going on in the Southern District of New York, which is a shockingly leftist district and with a politically motivated district attorney. But that's kind of not an oxymoron, but I guess maybe even a cliche. District attorney is an elected position. If you're in an elected position, then you're a political actor. So it's not shocking to me that you have a politically motivated district attorney. This is the joy of politics. Southern District of New York is getting after Trump regarding some kind of campaign finance violation from hush payments through his lawyer. This is one of the reasons why I never liked President Trump as a gut reaction. If you're a president, to my mind, you need to be kind of buttoned up. You need to be able to run an organization. You need to be ordered in your thoughts. You need to be clear in your thinking. You need to understand what it takes to cover all the angles, to manage all the bases. I mean, you are, as a chief executive, it's your job to effectively delegate and then validate and verify that those delegations take place, that those delegated actions happen as you wish them. And if they don't, to correct the organization until it does reflect your will. President Trump is a dynamic, charismatic person, and his one redeeming quality, the one thing that won me over, is that he's willing to push back on the institutional rot that happens when leftists take over institutions. So he's willing to say, nope, that's a lie. He's willing to say, nope, you're fake news, whatever. He has all of his funny labels and nicknames and whatever. But he's willing to pick a fight, instead of the typical Republican approach, which, as we've discussed, is make a lot of money by losing slowly, which I have no patience for. So I eventually, President Trump grew on me a little bit over time. But this kind of noise, this kind of nonsense about an alleged affair with a porn star while his wife was pregnant, and then he did a really sloppy job of executing a non-disclosure agreement with her and paying her for it, which is how non-disclosure agreements work. If you sign an NDA, you get compensated for it. That's what this is. So that's not news. However, if you pay for it out of campaign funds and then call it legal fees, and then even if the concept of what you're doing is sound, if you execute it so poorly that you at least give the appearance of breaking the law, that's kind of on you. The interesting thing is, today's article is out of Newsweek. It's also about President Trump. It's also about a grand jury. It's also about a lawyer who President Trump worked with, who may or may not have behaved properly or done the job as described or whatever. And yet, it's not the Southern District of New York. It's not Stormy Daniels. It's a whole different little tempest in a teapot. This one is about a lawyer, Evan Corcoran, who apparently made private audio recordings of his conversations with Trump and or his own notes while he's working on the file. But this relates to a defense attorney that President Trump hired relating to his handling of classified documents. Quick and dirty 30-second version. Every president, constitutionally, has plenary power. In other words, they hold that power within themselves as part of the execution of their office, and they decide how to use it as it relates to classification. Let's take a one-step remove. Let's say you're President Obama, the war on terror is still going, and you decide to give a press conference and release live classified details about a recent drone strike that happened in Sudan. You just violated classification. You just released classified documents out of the world. If you're a regular person who does that, that's a crime. You go to prison. If you're the president, then it's referred to as, I guess we're declassifying live now, because the president gets to do that. That is one of the privileges of being president. Think about the alternative to that. Then if he goes and has a head of state meeting with Russia and they want to talk nuclear nuclear dearmament, and they want to wind down some nuclear sites and reduce the nuclear arsenal across both states in some kind of... Without this kind of plenary power, essentially the head of state would have to go to his defense team and ask permission to release details about the status of our nuclear forces as part of this negotiation. That's backwards. That doesn't work. There's a lot of bureaucrats that want it to work that way. But from an effective governance perspective, I can't go there with you. This properly resides with the chief executive, whether that's President Biden or Obama or Clinton or Trump. It belongs with the chief executive. That's the background. Let's talk about the details and why being a sloppy, loose liar, which is effectively Trump's personality, gives opening for your enemies to make problems in your life. So President Trump, I guess, was in the habit of bringing classified documents back to Mar-a-Lago. And after he left office, he retained possession of those classified documents. He's not alone in that. Presidents do that all the time. That's kind of one of those things that just happens. So the question becomes, what's appropriate? How do we handle that? Now, the conversation that's actually happening is, can we find a way to charge him with a crime? Because the dream is to be the one to get Trump, because they have turned President Trump into the personal embodiment of evil. He's antagonistic to their ends, and therefore he is evil incarnate, and therefore he must be destroyed. And this goes back to our earlier discussions about Trump derangement syndrome and the idea that if you believe that everyone in the world is either a protector, an infant, or an enemy, and you have someone threatening and harming, as you see it, the infants that you're supposed to be protecting, the victim classes in America, and you fail to destroy that person, then you've failed in your identity as a protector, and it creates this deep, screeching terror that manifests as Trump derangement syndrome. To the article of the day, sorry for all the background. President Trump brought these documents back to Mar-a-Lago, kept some of them in his possession. After he left office, his stated position is that he declassified them and while he was president, and therefore, since they were declassified, he did not violate any laws regarding classification of handling of classified documents. If he was a more buttoned-up, organized individual who kept better records and had a more ordered mind, they would have a harder time pushing this case. But basically, it looks like President Trump had an unwritten rule that said, anything I bring back to Mar-a-Lago, we should consider that as declassified, and then if I bring it back to the office, now it's classified again. I want to have my cake and eat it too perspective. Not a good way to run a railroad, definitely a problem. And it leaves an opening for his enemies to go after him and make a mess. So as you may know, when you're in a mess, you hire a defense lawyer. You talk to that defense lawyer and you open up to them and you tell them the exact story of what happened. The defense lawyer needs to know if you actually killed the guy, if he's going to defend you. Now, you can't incriminate yourself, which is the Fifth Amendment, and there is attorney-client privilege baked into the cake that says you are free to speak with your attorney freely because anything you say can't be used against you, because it is protected by privilege and can be withheld from legal proceedings. There is a caveat relating to fraud and crime, in the sense of, just because the lawyer is bound by attorney-client privilege doesn't mean that the lawyer should protect overt criminal actions going forward. So, as an example, if you tell your lawyer that you are going to kill the security guard, or that you're going to order a hit on your wife, or whatever, again, we're off in fantasy land, then the lawyer has the ability, and in many ways the responsibility, to go to the proper authorities and say, listen, my client told me something in confidence, but he's planning a crime and I can't cover that up, so I'm going to share that with him. So that's essentially where we're at here. Applied to President Trump, he had a defense attorney to defend him in this matter of dealing with this tempest in a teapot about his handling of classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. So he talked to that person, and he made audio recordings, I believe, of those talks or of his own musings on the case. I'm not 100% sure. Probably some kind of dictation. The prosecution said, we want those lawyers' records. We want a review of them ourselves and look for evidence of a crime. And a judge said, I agree. You should get those. The interesting thing is when you read something from someone who's in a bubble, this author quotes a lot of people that agree with him, that are almost breathless in anticipation of what's coming. They're saying, oh my goodness, this could be the smoking gun. This could be what ends Trump. You can't get better evidence than a defendant's attorney's files. Defendants have to be candid with their attorney so their attorney can do their job. Another quote, if there is a smoking gun evidence that will convict Trump, Corcoran has it. Not to get too ahead of myself, but Howell ordered Corcoran to turn over materials, including transcriptions of personal audio recordings. Think about what those transcriptions could reveal about an apparently unaware Trump. Could be the smoking gun that brings him down. There's a bunch of people who've basically decided Trump is guilty. We just need to find enough evidence to hang him for it, basically. And they're saying, perfect, this judge gave us what we want. Now we're going to get him. Well, if you weren't born yesterday, you might remember the media does this a lot. Every time there's an investigation, every time there's a swirling maelstrom, every time there's a bubble and a babble over what on earth Trump has done most recently, there's a bunch of talking heads that are more than willing to say, this could be the crack in the wall, this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, this could be the smoking gun, this could be what finally brings him down. Because in their mind, it is a moral foregone conclusion that he's evil. We just need to find a way to show it to everyone to prove the evil that we see, because we're more moral and virtuous. So we see the evil that's there. We just need to find a way to show it to everyone. And then once we show it to him, then this great evil in our lives will finally be vanquished, and goodness and sunlight will shine across the land again. That's crazy talk. That's someone who's incredibly preoccupied with the political process, with the political opponent, with all the drama and the back and forth and whatnot. The fact is, if any one person has that big of takes up that much real estate in your brain, you got problems, honey. That's going to mess with your ability to think. And that's what we need, is a thinking public, a thinking political discourse. Not in constant freak out mode. But here we are in constant freak out mama bear mode. So in conclusion, it's possible President Trump will be indicted by the Southern District of New York. If he does, that's silly, but it could happen. It's possible that he'll get indicted after they review these attorney files and they say, oh, here's a smoking gun. It's possible that nothing will come of any of this because they're scratching in the dirt looking for gold. And maybe that there's nothing there. It speaks to Trump's chaotic nature that this kind of stuff comes up a lot. It speaks to his actual moral character that, in spite of being heavily scrutinized for close on a decade now, they haven't tagged him on anything serious. They haven't found any smoking guns, even though they've worked really, really hard to find some, or in certain cases to even make some. So that speaks to his moral character. That's where I say I'm not necessarily a fan of President Trump, but I don't see him as the devil incarnate. He's a complicated character with big pros and big cons. Here's what we have: a fluffy Newsweek article that is very excited about the prospect of President Trump getting prosecuted for crimes against the state. And this will serve to lather up the leftist base. This is a great article to provoke an emotional response. I bet Reddit was just full of comments about how terrible and evil Trump is, and maybe we'll get him this time and whatever. And on the right, you're going to get a bunch of people who say, you're all lying liars and you've lost all credibility to me. I mean, this is echo chamber writing. And maybe that's a label that we'll use. Both the right and the left do it. Both the right and the left, whether it's a congressional hearing or a news article or a podcast, it is really, really easy to talk to your base. It is really, really easy to write and speak in a way that will emotionally resonate with people who already agree with you and make a lot of money doing that. And it just leads to echo chambers. It just leads us to siloing our lives off. We don't have situations where we have to cross the aisle, per se, and actually rationalize our positions to someone who doesn't already agree with us. It's a very healthy exercise. It's a very rare exercise because it takes a certain amount of discipline and a certain amount of initiative. We are no longer in a society where we are expected to seek out these kinds of opportunities, to seek out these kinds of conversations. We all just kind of live in our own little bubbles. Newsweek, congratulations. You preach to the choir. Everyone who already has tuned Newsweek out, this will have no impact on them one way or the other. Good job. Thank you all for your time and attention. Please throw me a like or a subscribe. That's my Reddit rant for today. Good luck out there.